an age. We have begun the knowledge-based age, the age of knowledge. And you know when you're beginning an age, when that is important, that which is important is devalued. That's how you know you're entering a new age. The things that are important are devalued. By who? By the consumers. By the consumers, by a regular man, by the status quo. Why do you think there's all this talk of critical thinking? What is all this talk about critical thinking? Why is it so important? This is important because we're entering a new age. We're entering a new age. In this age, that which is important will be devalued, and it's being devalued. Things like family in a society, all around the world, are being devalued. Ask yourself why Saudi Arabia is now changing its stance on many things. When I first came here 10 years ago, music wasn't played. I mean, many things were not happening. And a lot of the things that are happening in Saudi Arabia is actually refreshing and good, but it also makes you question, why is there a change of stance? Because we have entered a new age, a new time for everyone, regardless of religion. We're in an age now where people believe that there's more than two genders. People are pushing back on all that we believe to once be empirical knowledge. Things that we believe to be empirical, factual information is no longer facts, no longer facts. No longer facts. Because we've entered an age where knowledge is now a currency, and everyone can't have the currency. Everyone cannot have the currency. Because you also will notice that as they're now there are more opportunities to learn, mainly because of online, and access to information is now easier than it's ever been. But within that access, people are denying learning. There are people who are denying going to four-year college, going to college, when it's easier to go to college than it's ever been before because of the internet. People are denying knowledge and information. The average American now is not even considering going to college. Why? Because this whole thing has been planned. For 2 decades, people have seen their mothers and their fathers struggle with master's degrees and doctorate degrees and bachelor's degrees. So they say, well, I'm not going to go to school. I saw my mother. My mother had a master's degree. My father had a bachelor's degree, and they struggled. We were poor. We barely made it. Why would I do that when I can go and do 1, 2, 3? And I would admit that everyone does not have to go to university to be successful. There are some people who, there are many professions in this world where university is not needed. In fact, most professions. However, we need an intelligentsia. We need a vanguard. We need a group of thinkers. And these thinkers don't necessarily need to be university graduates. They don't have to be university graduates. These thinkers can be plumbers, they can be electricians, they can be auto mechanics. But the problem is, the reason why we have universities and the reason why universities were always established, understand universities were not meant for the common man. Let's get that out of the way. High school, the concept of high school was not meant for the common man. The concept of high school is actually a relatively new concept for the common man, introduced mainly after World War II, when there was another shift that happened. So this is why it's important to be a student of history. These shifts happen based on innovation, and it was the innovation of the Industrial Revolution that brought us to where we are today, to these many different shifts. Now we're in the shift of the singularity, because innovation is moving at such a rapid pace. We're innovating daily, in some cases by the hour. Can you believe it? Today, we're sending William Shatner into space, Captain Kirk himself, into space. Fiction is meeting reality. Fiction is meeting reality. We're in the golden age, the wild, wild west. And there's three things that are required in this gilded age. But the door is going to close really quickly. Just like in the expansion to the West in America and all other times where we have an initial beginning of new times. The innovators come in, and then the doors close. Then anyone who's successful after that will struggle to meet that success. And most people will just be consumers. So what we're seeing now here is we give you social media. Social media is given to you the idiot box, just like the television was given to people to program them. This is why we call it television programming, to keep you silly, worrying about things that don't matter. The soap operas, sitcoms, what Kim Kardashian is doing, what your favorite footballer is doing. None of this stuff matters. But it keeps you consumed. Struggle keeps you consumed. Problems keep you consumed. The idiot box, the television, was the main tool that used to keep people consumed. Couch potatoes. University was never for the common man. University started off for those who are wealthy, a part of the aristocracy, the intelligentsia. But now in the knowledge-based age, in the knowledge-based economy, you could become a part of the intelligentsia, the vanguard. But the door is going to close. Why do you think Saudi Arabia has a 2030 vision? Almost every developing country has a 2030 vision. Why 2030? Because the door will close in 2030. The door is going to close in the next 8 years. The door will close in the next 8 years. And everyone outside of that door will not be a part of the vanguard and will operate in capitalism even though we're in a post-capitalistic structure. And if you don't believe me that we're in a post-capitalistic structure, look what's going on right now. There's supply chain issues all around the world. You think that's by design? You don't think that's not, you think that's just happened because of Corona? No, it was shut down because we're entering a new stage, a new era. We're out of capitalism. So the supply chain is now shut down because there's going to be a readjustment. The way you view currency is totally different than the way we view currency 20 years ago, 10 years, even 10 years ago. If you don't believe me, look at YouTube, look at TikTok, look at social media. You can now, if you have content, something interesting to provide the commons, you can be rewarded with payment. The knowledge-based economy is here. It is here, and it's extremely real. So going through this program, although not traditional, this is the new tradition, by the way. This is the new tradition. Learning online is the new tradition. It's not going anywhere. That is what it is. Because quite frankly, face-to-face instruction never worked. You did not learn knowledge in face-to-face instruction. You learned social norms and face-to-face instruction. You learn hierarchies. You learn how to deal with people. You learn how to become a part of the status quo, or how to operate in the fringes of the status quo. You didn't learn knowledge. You didn't learn knowledge in the please mute the mic. You didn't learn knowledge and face-to-face instruction. And we've known that for a very long time. School was always supposed to be a place where people come and talk and take what is in their workshop, and this is your workshop, and share it with the commons. School is nothing more than a depiction of the commons. And that's what's happening now in this knowledge-based economy. We're moving back to the smaller model, the commons, the way it was before the Industrial Revolution, or during the time when the Industrial Revolution started to thrive. It was the Industrial Revolution that brought people from rural Europe, from rural America, because you understand during that time, it was all about agriculture, and brought people to the cities to work in warehouse and manufacturing, to produce goods, products. And this is where we get urbanization. So we left the commons approximately 300 to 400 years ago, and we started operating the world of urbanization, London, New York, major thriving economic centers. Now we're moving out of the commons, out of the urbanization, back to the commons again, small areas. But the interesting thing about this commons is that the small areas are connected via networks. Connected via digital networks. So we simultaneously operate in a small space, but globalize at the same time. And technology allows us to do this. Soon you're not going to need English classes or Spanish classes or Arabic classes. Why? Because the technology will be there. You say it in Arabic and people hear it in English. Perfect translation. The technology is already there. So the obstacle of language will be no more, because ultimately Just like we're returning back to the commons, smaller spaces, remember that we ultimately started with one language. And that's the language of the chemical language that we all, that language actually, that artificial language that we hear comes from. That's what makes us human. We have a chemical language that us humans understand chemically. And we take this chemical language of emotions, of happiness, sad, anger, stress, anxiety, and we transform them into symbols, artifacts called words. And those words are regionally and culturally derived. And if you have rules to those words, we call it a language. And those rules we call grammar. The technology is bringing us to the singularity. The singularity. Why did they call it the singularity? The singularity. Back to the commons. Back to the oneness of humanity. In the knowledge-based economy, it will not matter if you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, man, woman, gay. It doesn't matter. So what do they do right now in 2021? They put all these things in front of you. That which is not important, or that which is important, will not matter. That which is not important will matter to the consumers. So to the consumers, religion will matter, sex will matter, products will matter. What if you have Nike on, it would matter. All these things would matter when they don't matter. They're not important. What is most important is what you can provide to the commons. How you worship your God is your business in the knowledge-based economy. Who you have sex with is your business in the knowledge-based economy. Because people in the knowledge-based economy, it is about providing for the common welfare of the commons. And your preferences is your preferences, as long as you're not hurting the commons. The enemy of the commons will be consumers, will be people who still operate under capitalistic mindsets, under this idea of trying to influence and impress people, worrying about other people instead of worrying about contributing to the commons. So those people who are worrying about contributing to the commons in a meaningful way, becoming a part of the singularity, these are the people that will be wealthy. These are the people that will gain wealth, because wealth would not be measured in currency. Currency means nothing. It hasn't mean anything for a very, very long time. For a very, very long time. Currency has not mean anything for a very long time, because people just, countries just print money. If you just print it and it's not backed by anything, the United States, that money is not backed by gold. There's no physical object that's backing American currency in most currencies. It means nothing. Need more money, just print it. Someone has something to say about it, invade them. This is why having a strong military is extremely important, to keep your currency in check. So the wealth comes from, in the knowledge-based economy, it doesn't matter if you're Black, it doesn't matter what language you speak, what your religion is, what your sexual preference are, none of that matters. Do you have something to contribute to the commons? And the problem is those people who take the time out of their day, because time is the biggest asset you have. Time is the ultimate asset. Why? That's the one thing that all of us is running out of. All of us will die. That is a fact. And when we go to another life, that's a part of your beliefs. But on this earth, on this land, in this body that you possess right now, it will decay, it will perish. Now, whether your soul, where your soul goes, that's based on your beliefs. But you will die in this life. So the one thing as human beings that is the most valuable of asset is time, because it's the one thing that we're running out of. We're all running out of time. So in the knowledge-based economy, time is an asset. So now, how are you managing your time? What are you doing? Are you managing your time stressing, anxiety, worrying about Kim Kardashian? Worrying about how to buy a Rolex, how to buy the latest phone, how to impress some fool who's not even concerned about you? Or are you spending your time trying to improve the commons, trying to make the environment and life better for the next people coming up, contributing to the singularity, knowledge-based economy? So now it is time for benefit, time for food, time for relaxation, time for vacation, time for fellowship, time for those things that you enjoy in life, to worry about, to engage in the preferences, your preferences, whatever they are. Because respite is important in the knowledge-based economy, because this thing between these ears, that's your manufacturer, that's your warehouse, that's your workshop. Are you going to spend the time developing, improving, innovating, oiling, maintaining your workshop, or destroying it, neglecting it, not doing preventive maintenance on it, letting it decay and rotten? This is what the knowledge-based economy is about. So you guys are doing the most important things right now, is dealing with getting these pieces of paper, bachelor's degree, master's degree, whatever, certificates, to show to the vanguard that you can be a part of the vanguard, that you can operate within the knowledge-based economy, so you and yours will have a better life. And the great thing about the knowledge-based economy is there's no longer a developing, developed, and underdeveloped countries. It's now about whether you are inside the vanguard, regardless of what country you are in. So develop yourself. Don't be a consumer. And when I mean by consumer, I'm not talking about somebody who just spends money. That's a consumer. But I'm talking about someone who doesn't value their time, who doesn't spend time developing their workshop. Because as I say, we have almost 15 people in this group, 17, I believe, and only 4 people on this call. You know what people are going to tell me? Oh, I was this and I was that and I was this. No excuses. No excuses. Carpe diem. Seize the day. The time is right now. Because, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, turns into next week, turns into next month, turns into next year. And this is what I know for a fact. In the midst of all the things that have gone on, I have completed I've completed basically all of my course hours for my PhD, and I've written chapters 1, 2, and 3 of my dissertation. During a time where I was extremely busy and the world was in chaos. Even though the world was in chaos, I saw it as an opportunity to take advantage of that time. And all of us had that same time last year. All of us, every last one of us. And how did you develop it? What did you do in April when everything went on lockdown? April, May, June, when everything was on lockdown. What did you do at that time? You know what I did? I was stuck in my bedroom, spending 11 hours a day, sticking my head in a book, writing papers. Television didn't come. Why didn't you look at the remote control? It was my bed and my computer and my printer. Because this is the new currency. And again, it's not about university. It's about how well you can contribute to the commons. But the most thing, the reason why university is important is because it's a depiction, as I said earlier, of the commons where we can come together like we're doing right now, come together and have intellectual conversation about some information so we can build on that information. We call it contributing to the literature. Contributing to the literature, the common, the knowledge-based economy, contributing to the literature. Contributing to the literature creates what? Innovation. Innovation leads us to the singularity, leads us to the point where Captain Kirk, William Shatner, a fictional character who is now 92 years old, by the way, is going into orbit today. Fiction meets reality. That was symbolic. That is symbolic. Symbolic to tell you that fiction meets reality. Oh, that's not real. That's just TV. That stuff only happens in the movie. Okay. Interesting enough, and I will end on this. I will end on this. Interesting enough, when I was in middle school, I remember this, even though I'm getting older now, 46 years old now. When I was in middle school, almost 40 years ago, or whatever it was, 35 years ago, when I was in middle school, I remember going to the Smithsonian Institute. Smithsonian Institute is a famous museum in Washington, D.C. There's three different buildings. One for natural history. That's where the famous Hope Diamond is. There's one for aerospace. There's one for the Holocaust. That's just four. There's one for African Americans. All right. Famous museums. And when I remember seeing they had an exhibit, and this exhibit stuck with me for all these years. And it said, Hollywood, this wasn't, I'm paraphrasing. It didn't say these words exactly, but this is the meaning. Hollywood meets reality. And then it said, life imitates art. Not art imitates life. Life imitates art. And interesting enough, in that exhibit, one of the items in that exhibit was Star Trek. Because at that time, when I went to the Smithsonian, it was I think it's probably in the 80s. Maybe I was in high school or middle school. I can't remember. But it was either in the late 80s or early 90s. And I remember because I grew up watching reruns of Star Trek with my dad. And it said in Star Trek, when the TV show came out in the 60s, they predicted all of these items, transporter, which was called transcommunicator, which is now a cell phone. All of these things that were, or abilities they had in the TV show that took place in the early 60s, which in the 60s, it was just fantasy. Nobody thought they would be able to take some device that was in their pocket and talk to someone. No one would ever have imagined that in the 60s. And then in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, we were able to do it. isn't it interesting that that exhibit that took place 30 something years ago that featured Star Trek and how Star Trek predicted the future? Isn't it interesting in 2021 and October 13th, 2021, the main star of Star Trek is going into space?
Excuse me, can you repeat?
I said, isn't it interesting that an exhibit that I saw as a young kid 30 plus years ago that featured the idea that Hollywood predicts the future or predicts scientific innovation. That was 30 years ago. And the point it was trying to make is on the show, it was predicting cell phones and all these other scientific innovations that we enjoy today. I find it very interesting
Yes.
that in 2021, the leading star, Captain Kirk, William Shatner, is going into orbit today on Jeff Bezos' Blue Orbit or Blue Orchid,
Yes.
whatever it's called. He's going into space today.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think that's by coincidence?
No, no, no. It's about thinking of innovation.
Innovation.
Innovation, because right now Elon Musk said his dream to build cities in Mars, to build as a city 1 million residents in that planet before 2050.
And it will happen. It will happen.
Yes, it will happen. And also the scientist tries to think to create a machine to make somebody live, come back to his ancestors' age.
So time travel. Listen, everything that seems like it's science fiction now will be reality for our great grandchildren.
Comes
will
true.
be reality. Think about your great grandfather. Would your great grandfather ever imagine that we would be able to send people into orbit? Could he ever have conceived that? Could his great grandfather ever conceive that we would fly in the air in airplanes?
Yes, sure.
Could his grandfather, going back 10 generations now or more, conceive that we would have machines made of steel, cranes, live in skyscrapers, 100 floors in the air, up in the air? Never could have, they couldn't conceive it. But there were people that could. And these were the vanguard then. This was the intelligentsia then. So now the question is, will you be a part of the intelligentsia now? Are you going to be a part of that intelligentsia? Because now that intelligentsia is now an economy, a learning-based economy. And all these schools still teaching traditionally with the teacher up front and students sitting down, and there's no project-based learning going on, no problem-based learning. We're still treating kids like little kiddies only in the kindergarten. You're going to see more young geniuses in the next 10 years than we have ever seen in humanity. And they're going to come from developing and underdeveloped countries by the world, because they're hungry. Because the one thing about a developing country and an underdeveloped country is that the people in those countries are hungry, where the Americans and the Brits and all the Westerners are fat rats.
Starving knowledge. They are starving of knowledge. Sure.
Starving for knowledge, where the developing people from the developing nations, they're thinking, they're imagining, they're thinking about the possibilities. They're hungry. I'll end on this note. What did Einstein say? Einstein said The difference between modern man and ancient man is the bow and arrow. Something to think about. What was he
Because
trying to
there's a
say?
target.
What was he trying to say that ancient man had to hunt. Ancient man had to be innovative. Ancient man had to be critical thinkers to stay alive. And those attributes that ancient man had, we must continue to hone. We must continue to develop. We must continue to innovate. We must stay intellectually hungry. If not, we will perish. All right. I hope that is some motivation for you guys. Continue to do your final projects. Mary, continue to read your modules. I look forward to meeting you guys. Saturday is just a review day. There's nothing really to review because we're
Are
all
we
trying to
meeting on Saturday?
Well, Saturday is a review day. There's nothing really to
Yeah.
review. So it's
I
better.
will probably have some question on Saturday. If it's okay with you, we can have a meeting on Saturday.
Save those questions for Monday.
For Monday?
Save those questions for Monday. So you get a
Okay.
whole, you get 5 or 6 days to go through. My intentions is for you to finish that whole course by Monday, by all your reading. So dedicate some time for your reading. Have some
At the
questions.
end of it, I saw a quiz. Am I supposed to do the quiz or
Do all the
first
quizzes. Do all the
am
quizzes.
I supposed to submit it to you on the
No,
quiz
this-
when I
it
finish it?
It automatically
It's
goes
automatic?
online.
Yeah.
Automatically online.
Yeah.
Do your quiz. That's why you take the notes as you go along. You
Okay.
take the notes as you go along, so you can use your notes during the quiz. Okay.
That's great. Yeah.
Don't be shy. So use your notes during the quiz. Ask the questions. Let's get all of this done by Monday, so we can move on to the next course. You can catch up with Mr. Muhammad and everyone else.
Okay. Hopefully.
All right, listen, my goal is to drag you guys through the finish line. I want you to finish this master's degree in under a year. For
we
you,
have
Mary,
the
once you finish your bachelor's.
For me, excuse me, for me, I'm in pins and needles to finish as soon as possible.
Soon as
Finish
possible.
this master as soon as possible.
So let's pick up the pace. Mary, there's no reason why you cannot finish this bachelor's degree in a year and a half.
I'm free. I left my job.
Ms.
For the
Muhammad,
sake of master.
So let's move faster.
I'm trying to read as possible as I have free time. I'm always online and trying to do some stuff.
Take your time in reading. Pose questions. If you have questions, if things you're confused about, write them down, present them to me so we can discuss them.
Okay. And we have, like, it was the first week we have these classes. You said you'll do it on WhatsApp, like you recorded it, but you never send it. Not last week, the other week.
I'm not gonna. Well, number one, the reason why I didn't record it because I pressed the wrong button and it didn't record, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I think now I'm not going to record the sessions because what's happening is people are not coming to the groups. So they're recorded. They're always, but I'm not going to share them unless I really need to share them because I'm trying to motivate.
That one for me, like, at that time I was not logged in and it had some points I took.
Now you know how to log in. You don't need that.
I didn't have my right classes at that time, you remember? So I just wrote some notes. Now I'm going through them as you are reading, but I really like some things are off. So I was wondering if I can have that class so that I can listen and remind myself, because while you were talking, I was writing some notes. I'm trying to read them, but I can't remember all things are off because I didn't have the actual class that time.
Well, the next course we're going to deal with note-taking because note-taking is a very important part because when you're dealing, whether it be in class or in a meeting, you got to learn how to take notes and effective notes because a lot of times you're not going to be able to record. Now we have the technology where you can record on the phone, whatever. But the ability to take good notes, that's a skill. That's a skill in itself. Note taking is a skill in itself. How to take notes and notes for you to understand and later transcribe. We'll talk about that in the next course that we will engage in. So
Okay.
let's end this conversation here. Mr. Muhammad, finish your revisions on your final project. Mary,
Yes.
continue to do your modules, and we will see you guys on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Doctor. For
Yes.
this class today, would you mind sending it by WhatsApp?
I will send this one, but what I'm trying.
For
I will
me,
do,
if you don't
no.
want
I will
to
send
it
this one because I want people to hear that message. But the next when we actually have answers and questions, I want to try to alleviate that because people are not attending the classes thinking I'm going to upload the videos. All right, I want to break people out of that. I need people in the classes so we can start bouncing ideas off of one another. All right, so I will record this video. I will put it in the Google Classroom, not the Google Classroom, but the
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp group. All right.
Thanks
Okay,
very much indeed, my doctor. I give you my
thank
hat.
you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. See you on Monday.
Thank you. See you
Thanks
on
very much
Monday.
indeed for everybody.
Carpe
Okay,
diem.
have a nice weekend.
Seize the day.
Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.